where the seed germination is better inside, but my transplant rate is this year I'm trying something a little bit different. I'm just using regular on the lid, but then if the lid gets turned around. Hello, and I hope you're having a great day. I am going to be planting some seeds and actually kind of opening this with you guys and using these for the first time ever. So these are some seed trays, seed planting trays that I bought on Walmart.com on their website. I don't think it's directly from Walmart. I'm actually not sure. Maybe it is directly through Walmart. Kind of like they have the other retailers that you can purchase from, but I have over the years used, actually the Costco, their plastic egg cartons work really well. I've used them, but I think I'm finally at the point that I'm ready for some real seed trays. So these actually feel pretty good. I'll link down below. I mean, this is a little flimsy. I think these are only gonna last a couple of seasons if I'm lucky. I was hoping they were just a tiny bit thicker, but they are that kind of plastic. But I do think being in the heat in the sun will make these rather brittle, but oh well. I don't love using all the plastic stuff. I would rather it be something that's going to last for a long time, but I'm also still trying to figure my way out through this. So it comes with, I'm trying to get it separated, a base, oh, some tags, that's nice. Again, I don't use too many plastic tags just because it's yet another plastic thing. All right, so what we have, and the reason I picked these is because a lot of them had a black piece. This is clear. I mean, it's a little bit opaque, but I think it'll still help. But basically, I'm assuming this pops onto there, and you can use this to help vent. So you can close the vent, or you can turn it to open. So as condensation builds up, condensation is good, but too much condensation can lead to molding on top of your seeds. And then this, plant the seeds in, or the soil and the seeds in here, put them in here so you can water from the bottom, which is great, especially when they're young. I only water from the bottom, like when I first plant seeds, and then this goes on top. So again, all pretty flimsy. For next year, I do want to invest in something a little bit more permanent long-term, but I just want to see if I even like the style before I invest in the thicker plastic items. All right, so that is the holders. So some of the things that you want to plant this time of year are peppers. Maybe not this kind. Bell peppers is what I really want to plant. I have to see if I have any. Cucumbers are a good one. Tomatoes are a good one. I made myself a little list just so that I don't forget any. What else? Eggplant. Eggplant are in that same family as tomatoes and peppers. They are not frost tolerant, and they need heat in order to really amp up. So getting them started now inside and then bringing them out once it's warm enough. Cabbages, broccoli, and cauliflower, you can direct sow, at least in my area. I'm 7B, 8A kind of. You can direct sow them. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll direct sow some and then still plant some in the inside, and that way I have two different ones that I can plant out at different times. So it kind of allows me to double up. Also, my success rate with the seed germination is better inside, but my transplant rate is a little bit lower. So planting them outside, I know what's gonna live based on what came up. So that's also why sometimes I do it. And then an extra few, you can do beets. They don't love being transplanted, but if you do it in something like this where it does have a long root system and you can just carefully push them out, that is the one nice thing with these being flexible. You can kind of nudge them up out without having to dig in and disrupt the root system. Beans, some bean plants, you can go ahead and get started. I would maybe wait a few weeks for that. Maybe about 2 to 4 weeks before your last frost date. That way you can put them out sooner. You don't want them to start vining too much. They don't like being transplanted once their root system has really started branching out. Onion starts, you can start them inside and then put them out. That's another one you can direct sow, or do both. And then chard, so like greens like chard and those types of greens, really, they don't like frost, even though I have one right against my house that's lived all winter with some pretty impressive frost. But so what I'm going to be planting today are, here we go, I have some bell pepper, and I've actually started a project in the fall where I dug up some of my bell pepper plants from last summer, took all the soil off the roots, put them in a new pot with new soil, and I have them on our porch all all winter. So I'm really excited to see how they end up turning out. Right now I only have one heat mat, and I grow everything in our front window. It's south facing and it's a bay window, so it sticks out a little bit. And this time of year, as long as I plant them, right now it's mid-February, as long as I plant them now, they get enough sun, they do great. By about mid-March, it does start to get a little bit too, the sun has moved in the sky, so they don't get quite as much sunlight. So I'm gonna move the camera to plant these, but I just wanted to pick a couple that I'm going to plant. I'm not sure if I'm gonna do all 5 today, but I'm gonna do an Amish paste, a Dr. Wyche's, a Wero Calci, no idea, a pineapple tomato, and a sub-Artic plenty tomato. It's a little excessive, I know. I definitely over the years have gone crazy with the amount of tomato varieties that I've purchased, so I need to kind of pull back on those, but I'm excited this year to maybe have a little bit more space to grow them and see how they do. All right, so I'm gonna move the camera so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, there we go. You can see what I'm working with. Usually I have a tray that I put the soil in. Also this year I'm trying something a little bit different. I'm just using regular potting mix, but this is the Vigoro. So it doesn't have a lot of extra stuff added to it. It does have some time release fertilizer. And I know you don't really need you don't really want much fertilizer for seed starting, because you want the seeds to grow, focus on growing that new little plant. But I'm just trying to see, because I don't really want to buy a lot of potting soil. I was finally able to get my composting to really get a good amount of compost. I really have it moving. So most of my plants, I'm just going to use that compost mixed with maybe a few other, maybe some really broken down mulch. I don't know, I haven't fully figured out what I'm going to use for my ratios. All right, so what I'm probably going to do, I don't really need a whole lot. I don't know, I always regret doing this because then I lose track. Like, I write it on the lid. So what I usually do is I'll plant a bunch of different things and I'll write on the lid. But what happens is your lid gets turned around. So one thing I did last year, which I might go grab a Sharpie, I wrote like an A and an A. So I knew that goes with that. And then I wrote on which ones I'm doing. But it just makes it tricky year over year. Here we have it. I've put soil in here. All right, so what I might do is I just might not plant all of these. I hate wasting the space. I'll see what I end up doing, but it gets really hard to keep track when you plant a bunch of different varieties in the same container. I've had different methods in the past where I've like written on the lid, but then if the lid gets turned around and I lose track, and then I've put like a mark so I knew which side to put the lid, but then when I go to use that next year, it makes it kind of tricky. So I don't know, we'll see what I end up doing. I think I might stick with, all right, so that was pineapple. Right now I'm doing the sub-Artic plenty, and I'm just putting, what I did is I put soil in here. I didn't pack it in, I kind of tucked it in a little bit so there weren't large air pockets because these are so long and deep. And then I'm just dropping 2 seeds in each in case the germination rate isn't fully 100%. And the great thing is I can then, if both of them grow, I can pop one out and put it in another pot. And I have 2 for the price of 1. So just a tiny bit of soil on top. And then, actually I probably could have left this out. So what I'm gonna do, just to show with this first one, put some water on the bottom. I probably won't need that much. I'll come back later and take it out, but I put it in and then I just drop it down and it's touching the bottom there. I can feel it and it'll actually pull the moisture up. And the good thing with doing it this way instead of pouring on top, when you pour it on top, it adjusts where the seeds are and can kind of resettle stuff. Also, it can make them deeper than what you want. By doing it this way, it kind of helps to pull all that soil down towards the water. So it's all getting pulled down together, but it helps to pull that seed onto the soil so it's more flush with the soil. Or so I've been told. All right, so I'm going to leave these on the sides that I did them so I can grab my Sharpie later and write on it. All right. Grab this, and actually what I might do is just put the water now, fill it up, and then just pop it in. I also have developed a pretty good seed storage system. It actually was incredibly frustrating trying to find something that I felt like I could organize my seeds in a way that felt, I don't know, effective for the way my brain works. You know, I think everyone has a different way of feeling like something's effective. And this is what I have found. And actually, this might be a better example. So I just have them all in there. But then, I mean, again, this was just a rudimentary kind of thing, but I just took a manila folder, cut it, and that's how I'm separating my different seeds. But the reason that I did this, I thought when I ordered these that they were going to be airtight. And unfortunately, they're not. There's a hole right here. So I basically put all of my different categories of seeds. I put all of my different categories of seeds in here, and then I put all of these into a container that is airtight. And actually it works because then they're all in there together. I can carry that around, but then when I need to plant something, I just take this out. So I keep, for now, with the amount of seeds I have, it works. I keep all of mine in categories based on the time of year that I plant them. So like all of my early spring crops, I have in one. All of my like vegetables, I have in this one, like the mid-season, warmer season vegetables, I have in this one. And then I have like all of my flowers and like herbs in a different one. And so far that works. I know where to go for what I'm doing. This, okay. So that was the Amish paste. I haven't had great success with paste tomatoes for some reason, just the plants. I don't know why. So the other thing that we're having to solve for this year is we need a better watering system. I don't want to spend a lot of money because it was a lot of money to cut a tree down. But I definitely want to come up with a watering system that, I don't know if you can see what I'm doing. I'm just putting the seeds in there, covering them. But I want to come up with a watering system that allows, like, you know, basically like a drip water system, but that isn't prohibitively expensive. So I'm not sure what we're going to come up with this year. I have to kind of see. All right, let me pop this lid in. All right, and that actually might be all that I plant because I'm just realizing this is an odd man out right now. So I'm going to leave him for now. I should really count. I'm going to close these because right now we want humidity. Okay, make sure I turn that the right way. Right now we want humidity. Again, once they start growing and you actually get the plants on there, you do want to limit the humidity. And actually around that time, you would probably take off the dome. But let's say some have sprouted, some haven't. That's where maybe you can open it to reduce the humidity, but still keep some of it. So far I like the system, and it definitely feels effective for what it is. I think these, how many, is it 10? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yes, I had to count that slowly. But so far they seem well made for what they are. They seem like they're going to work well for what I need them to do. But as I said, I try not to use a lot of single-use type plastics for something like this because I know I have the same need year over year. So that is something that I want to figure out a better solution for. I forget if I ever stopped explaining about the bell pepper as I'm trying, oh my gosh, there we go, to get into these. But yeah, I have the bare root plants. They're sitting on my porch. They're still alive. I've kind of tugged at the roots a little bit just to see how they're doing. Like tugged at the plant to make sure the root is still solid, and it is. So I only did one because I wasn't sure if I'd have enough. So I'm excited. I'm not going to bring them out until it's warm enough. The one thing that I've learned, particularly about bell pepper, is you don't even want to plant them outside until it is like 70 degrees at night consistently, at least. So they will do well, they'll live if you do that, but they don't tend to flourish, and even once the weather gets warmer, it's like their growth is stunted. But if you just keep them in a warm place, especially for the nighttime temperatures, that like few weeks longer, and you put them out later, you actually end up with a better success rate, which is just, I don't know, it's kind of interesting how plants work. You know, you think of plants are needy too. So I'll grab, I only have one variety of cucumber right now out. Cucumbers are much more satisfying to plant. These I am just going to do one per, because eventually I'm also going to direct sow some cucumbers. All right, I'm going to line these up. So let me put it this way. I'm going to line them up in the order that I'm planting them, so I don't lose track. I like to plant cucumbers like in, what's the word I'm looking for? Staggered. That's the word I'm looking for. So I like to stagger the planting for those. Not my best idea. So that we have a continuous source of cucumbers. All right. So again, I'll plant these in here as it gets closer to our last frost date. I'll also plant them in the ground. I'll put these in the ground, and then the ones that I plant in the ground will come after these, ideally. Here we are. This is our south-facing bay window. A couple of lessons I learned with working with these. I'm used to working with my other little makeshift holders. I would put them in water in something else, not the water in here, because then I had to lift them out and dump out some of the extra water. Also, because I was in a rush, I didn't moisten the soil before, and it was pretty dry, so it did take longer for them to pull the moisture up. So I would recommend, which is usually the recommended method, to get your soil somewhat wet. You don't want it sopping wet, but just enough moisture that when it comes in contact with water, it'll actually pull it up easier. It takes longer when it's really dry soil. But as you can see, it gets a pretty good amount of sunlight because the sun is still low enough in the sky that we get sunlight here from well before 7 o'clock in the morning throughout the entire day. So these get a good amount of sunlight. Then I did learn a couple of years ago, I put a wooden board under it to protect my woodwork from the heat that is conducted on the bottom side of the mat as well. So this helps to create a barrier to keep that from damaging my woodwork. But I will check in probably in another video on how these are doing. But thank you again. I hope you have a great day.